So we've seen in the last lecture how we can allow other developers to hook into our themes code. We call do action, and then other developers can add actions to this hook. WordPress actually implements the same concept in the WordPress core. If you take a look at the WordPress source code, you will find a lot of do action calls, and in the same way this will allow us plugin and theme developers to interact with the WordPress core. So for example, there's an action called plugins loaded, and you can define a function that will run once WordPress loads the plugins. You can also run a function when WordPress first initializes with the init action. Some other actions accept arguments. For example, there's an action called save post, which obviously runs when you save a post. And inside your function, you can actually get some arguments. So in save post, you get the post ID and the actual post object. So you can do something here with these variables. Just make sure when you have more than one argument, you must pass the number of arguments as the fourth parameter in add action. So the second one is the priority, and the default is 10. And this is the number of arguments. For more than one argument, you must specify this, so 2 in our case. There are tons of actions that are included in the WordPress core. In fact, if we search for action reference, you'll find this page, and it includes all the actions that are included in the WordPress core. So you can actually do pretty much everything you would like to do to interact with the WordPress core. And in the same way we can hook into the WordPress core to add some code, WordPress can actually also hook into our theme in order to add some stuff. And we actually already did that. Remember in the header.php file, we called a function called wp-head. And what wp-head actually is, it's a function that, let's take a look at it. It's a function that will actually call an action called wp-head. So wp-head actually calls do action wp-head. Alright. So remember when we viewed the page source, and we found that wp-head added some stuff here, some scripts and some CSS. And the way this is actually possible is by WordPress registering some new functions to the wp-head hook in the WordPress core. So to further understand this, let's search for wp-head hook. And I think it's this one. Yeah, and you'll find here that WordPress in the core of the WordPress actually injects some functions to the wp-head hook. So these functions are actually responsible for displaying the stuff that we see here. And that's why calling wp-head in your theme is mandatory, because WordPress actually uses this hook to inject some stuff in your theme. So let's actually try to use this hook here. So I'm gonna remove this save post. And let's leave the function name, it's not important for now. And then let's echo some maybe a style tag. And let's change the background color of the body. And let's make it important, so we can make sure we will. As you can see, let's refresh the page source. I'm not sure if you can see. We've injected some CSS style tags using the wp-head function. So you might be wondering, why haven't we done that instead when we were enqueuing our CSS files instead of the enqueue wp enqueue scripts action? And the reason is that WP include scripts does more than just injecting the script in the head tag. It's actually responsible for making sure also no duplicate styles are included and that the dependencies are included and the versions and all that stuff. So this is the proper way to add styles and scripts to WordPress. You should never do that, right? So I hope it's now clear that we can hook into the WordPress actions that are already defined by WordPress, and you have the list here. And WordPress actually can hook into our theme by calling functions like WP head and WP footer also. So one more thing I want to clarify in the actions, you can not just echo something like we've done so far, you can actually run any kind of PHP script. So for example, we have an action called pre get posts. Alright. And what that action does, remember in the when we were discussing the WP query, and we said that we have a global variable that holds all these posts that we loop through, right? And all these posts are retrieved using a function called getPosts. If you don't remember that, you can go back to the lecture where we discussed the loop. So pre-getPosts actually allows you to do something before calling getPosts. So what you can do is you can modify the global WP query object before getting the posts, so you can change the getPost function behavior. So this action gets the query as a parameter, and inside the function you can do whatever you want with the query object, modify it, change some stuff in it. I just wanna search for the WP query class and show you how WordPress actually implements actions in the code. So we have the source code for the WP query class here. Let's view it and let's search for getPost. Here it is. So this is the getPost function that is responsible for getting the post according to the query, as we discussed before. And here is the pre-getPost action. So WordPress is actually calling do action, and this is a another way to call do action. The difference is just this one allows you to pass an array of parameters here. So the array of parameters here is this, and this here refers to the current instance of the WP query, and that's actually what we get passed here, this query. So this filter will run before calling getPosts for any WP query loop. Right, so after modifying this, WordPress will go on and use the modified one that you actually modified using the action. So what we can do is maybe we can check if the query is main query. Remember the difference between main query and a secondary query. So if it's a main query, let's set the maybe the posts per page to 2. Let's see what will happen. So in our main query we only have 2 posts now. So you can actually use this pre-getPosts action later in an advanced section in this course. Could be useful to implement an advanced search or any feature that will require to change the behavior of the query. Another thing I want to point out is there is a function called remove action, that will remove a certain or unregister a certain function from an action. So maybe we as theme developers added some action, and somebody, another developer needs to remove it, to override that. So he can call a remove action and the action name and also the function name. But also you should make sure that if you called add action with arguments, with let's say a priority and a number of arguments, you should do the exactly same arguments for the remove action. Otherwise it won't work. You might be wondering, we are calling these add action hooks in the functions.php file, which is actually inside our theme. So what's the point of that? This way we're also modifying the theme. So if another developer needs to interact with some action hook, he needs to modify functions.php, which is actually modifying the theme, right? And the answer to this is that actually other developers won't have to add these add action calls in functions.php. They can add it in what's referred to as child themes. And we'll take a look at child themes in a couple of lectures.